Hello everyone, welcome to the Kevin Lee Social. Thank you for tuning in. What initially began as an 8-part series interviewing entrepreneurs to share and inspire how they've successfully pivoted during COVID-19, I have decided not only to continue this series, but also to expand on the scope to understand and learn about people's craft, philosophy, the challenges they face in the industry, and their favorite failures that have helped shape them to become who they are today. By going deeper and understanding different thought leaders, businesses, and industries, the idea is to help cross-pollinate ideas applicable in your life and inspire action in this new norm we live in. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Today we have Yasmine, Saleh, Ghoniem. In 2013, Yasmine founded the multi-award-winning Sydney-based design collective, Amber Road, with her sister landscape architect. In the span of just 6 years, it won and was shortlisted for over 40 design accolades, bolstering its reputation as one of Australia's most directional and respected design studios. Fueled by her eagerness to consolidate her strengths and explore furniture design for the retail sector, Yasmine established YSG in 2020 as a multi-disciplinary initiative encompassing her existing interior design practice and custom design ranges for the home. Everyone, please help me welcome Yasmine. Yasmine, thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy lady. I really appreciate you coming on since we recently.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. And I love what you're doing. And yeah, it's incredible. So thank you for having me.
No, as I mentioned before, the more I learn more about Yasmine, the more I learn about YSG, I'm more curious about your story. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
And so from what I've researched, you were actually an aspiring singer before redesigner. Could you share more about your backstory with us, please?
Yeah, I've always been obsessed with performance, and from my days as a child, I danced since I was 4. I've always loved being on stage, and I loved music. I've been in bands growing up in high school with friends, and then later on in my late 20s, I started a band with my brother. And then that kind of grew very organically with my cousin and then my best friend and then another friend. So what grew between my brother and I with very late nights drinking red wine and writing music till 3 a.m. and very annoyingly pissing off our neighbours, we then grew into a 5-person all-girls band except my brother. I think he's secretly a woman anyway. So it was perfect. And the 5 of us, we would call the Conversations. And the music really grew from very folky kind of roots to quite rocky outcomes towards the end. And I guess our last we recorded last EP or a couple of songs probably, 3 years ago now, probably. And that was the last time I think we played music. Unfortunately, we had some really terrible things happen to some of the members, and it was the end at that point for a little while, and we've just never gotten back to it. So I think that's definitely something we're all keen to give another go. But for me, it's doing it at home still as well, and singing is really therapeutic for me. I find it a really great way to forget the day. Yeah.
What kind of genre or what kind of music were you guys making?
Well, we started out very folky, so it was just like guitar and singing and harmony, and it was very a basic way to play music. And then it grew and it was very layered. We had violins and double basses and pianos and lots of different things going on, and it was very emotive. I guess a lot of people call it as haunting, I guess, in a way too. But yeah, a bit rocky, a bit of everything. It's mixed, like most things I do.
Yeah. So along with all the music and the artistry that you're doing, how did interior design come into place among all of that? Because you said 3 years ago since you did your last recording.
Yeah, interiors, I grew up in the Middle East, and there wasn't really an opportunity to follow a performance career. I grew up in a very strict, household, and that wasn't an option for me. And I wish, looking back, I'd been maybe a little bit stronger, but I was as strong as I could be back then. And my dad's like, you've got to go to university. I didn't really want to go to university. I wanted to go and start a career in the performance kind of world. So I was like, fine, I'll do uni, but I'm doing art instead. And in where I come from, you do either you're a doctor or you're an engineer, or that's it. You're those things. And I didn't want to do any of those things. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to art school. And he goes, we can't do that either. So I was like, great, well, I'll do graphic design or something that was not just me with a paintbrush. And so I actually studied visual communications first in Dubai. That was my first year of college. And then I realized I didn't want to spend my rest of my life behind a computer screen. And that was a really big lightning bolt moment. And I decided to go and speak to somebody about, I was torn between a couple of different things: furniture design, lighting design, textiles, and architecture. And interiors just seemed to meld all of those things together, all of my real big passions. So I went for that, and I haven't looked back. It's a really rewarding profession. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you for sharing that story, Yas. You said your background's from the Middle East. Can you share how that has influenced your work?
I so my dad's from Egypt. I never really actually lived in Cairo. I lived mainly in the Gulf, and the Gulf doesn't have as much vibrancy as the rest of the Middle East, like Lebanon and Egypt and Jordan. And the Gulf is very sandy. It's all one color, and even the way people dress, it's very monotone. So for me, I broke the mold in the work that I produce, because it's very much opposite to my surroundings when I grew up, when there wasn't really actually much to get inspired by. And because the heat is so violently hot, it sometimes gets up to 55 degrees. I lived a very internal life. Like, my apartment was my kind of world. So I always loved making my bedroom like a really special kind of place. So yeah, in terms of how my culture has brought about my interiors, I think it's my fascination with textures and color, because it's so very different from the natural environment over there, that it was like, I want more and more, because you lacked that in the natural environment. So,
yeah, I've seen some of your work at Edition, which is an amazing fit out, by the way. Congratulations on the awards for that. As well as one of your more recent projects, Four Pillars Gin, who has been on my previous interview.
yeah.
And I am absolutely in awe when I walked in there. I go, wow, yes, you've absolutely outdone yourself. And the lighting, the textures, and the furniture, and I was thinking, man, I've got to get design my house one day if I could. I was just so curious. Maybe you could share me a few details, the touches that you did at Four Pillars, for example. Some of the highlights, for example.
Oh, firstly, Four Pillars was a really special project for us, because working with Matt and Leah and the team at Four Pillars was an exceptional kind of experience. Those guys really know how to work a brand and what they're all about and what they stand for, and it made the brief to answer just so much easier, because there was no like, oh, that's not really us, or I don't really know who we are. They were just right from the get-go, this is us, and it was such an easy kind of delivery because of their consciousness of who they were. Having said that, the one thing that they weren't really sure about was the hero of the project, which was the blue bar, which we actually nicknamed the juniper blueberry color after the dried juniper berries from gin. And for them, I think it took a little while for them to get their heads around why blue. Well, blue doesn't really represent Four Pillars. And I was like, but it's essentially the main ingredient from gin. It's also reminiscent of your Navy strength offering as well. And I think once they started getting their head around it, they were like, oh, hell yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. And then when it came to site, and we were very heavily in middle of lockdown in COVID times, and Leah actually never came and saw the entire fit out during construction. So it was like an unveiling when she came to view the venue for the first time. And that in itself was really quite insane when you think about it, because the amount of trust they had to hand over was immense. But when we were on site and we were working out the blue colors, I was on the phone with Leah, FaceTiming, going, is it this shade? Is it that shade? We would have spent like maybe an hour and a half trying to work out the exact blue. And when we got there, we knew we were there. And I think that has really made that project sing. It's quite a beautiful experience, sitting at that bar and the lighting. And it does feel very international to me. It doesn't really speak Sydney. It doesn't speak London or Singapore, or it does have its own flavour. And I think for Four Pillars, it's a very international brand, or will be. And I think in that way, we've nailed the brief. But yeah, it was just, it feels so good in there. Like, it really does. It feels like it was always supposed to be there. Even though it's like this massive blue piece of concrete in the middle of this beautiful brick heritage site, it still feels like it was supposed to be there. Like, it's been there for ages. And I can't get my head around why that is. But I think the lighting definitely makes that space. And we did spend a lot of time considering how you would feel sitting up there. Yeah. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, for sure.
I thought it was amazing. I remember first seeing the photos and I thought, wow, those photos are amazing. I've got to go check out this place. So when I finally got there, I was thinking, wow, this blue is really something special.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's one of my navy blue is actually one of my favorite colors.
Yeah,
I so much. And
I
even
love it too.
on that project, I was looking at around the details as well as edition, and I love how it's subtle but not subtle, and it's all the textures in it. It just screams out to you, but with that keen eye. And I love it so much how it just blends seamlessly throughout the whole place.
Yeah, I think there's like an element of nostalgia, right, to these places. They remind me of like memories of things, especially Edition, and it reminds me of a history moment in time. And I love that. I love that about that place.
Being local to you, I've seen you transform and rebrand from Amber Road to YSG. Can you share with us, is it something that you believe has helped you niche more into your crafts, or how?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you have a partnership, you don't really unveil your full self because you're always trying to complement your partner. So now that we've separated our disciplines, I really do feel like I've arrived and I've come into my own, and I've solidified my offering by talking about my heritage and where I'm from and being proud of that. And I think, yeah, like I said, when you've got another person to consider on a press front, you're half of that person. You're never really fully yourself. And so I've really enjoyed being able to, just offer my own craft. And definitely, I think when we were building the website, it was really important to get those ideas across. And I think that's why when you land on our page, you landed with big text saying seekers of the unconventional. And for me, it is about getting the right client to want to push themselves, do something really different. We're not for the faint-hearted. And that's what I really want to spend my energy on is creating interiors for people who are really keen to do something different.
I love that. I love that. It's not for the masses, and you want people that are different and risk and to look for something more. And you mentioned when you see that going to your website, I also saw another quote on your website. As soon as you jump on, it says that magnetism is in the mix.
Yes.
And I was thinking about it, but I actually don't know what that means. Can you elaborate on that for me?
It's a multifaceted quotation, I guess. It references my mixed heritage. So my mum's Australian and my dad's Egyptian. And I always love anything mixed and not pure and a bit of a cocktail. And the other part is, I guess, magnetism in the mix of materials that we use in a lot of our projects. So there's definitely a mix of textures and colors and finishes. Some are super luxe and some aren't at all. And the combination of those is where the magic happens. Yeah.
Okay. During the time of this recording, we are still going through COVID period. How has that impacted you, and how do you think it will shape the industry moving forward, do you think?
I think COVID has, for a lot of people, especially myself, made you reassess your priorities. And I have a team, and it's been obviously difficult working from home and still trying to manage and design without hands-on kind of experiences in the office. But it's also allowed, I think, people to have their own voice a bit more and be a little bit more independent and not rely so heavily on other people's kind of direction. So in that sense, I think that's been really great. I think moving forward, flexibility is just now part of your everyday. You can't expect somebody to come in and be in the office 5 days a week, and a lot of trust has to be put back into each of your staff and yourself. But I've actually really enjoyed parts of the COVID. Obviously, it has impacted our business, and I've definitely had to re-strategize. And having a new website that says for seekers of the unconventional is really not that conducive to new business. So I've had to really accept that and reevaluate what I want my next 5-10 years to look like. And for me, it's about reconnecting with my old passions like music, and reconnecting with my family, and reconnecting with my own industry. I forgot how much I do love it because I was so busy and I never stepped off the wheel. I was always just doing this. And I think the moment I stopped doing that, and that's only really been in the last month, I've really actually appreciated some time out to go, is this how I want to live my life from now on? And I don't think it is. And I think it's a really great opportunity to, you'll never have this opportunity again. Like, this is once in a lifetime. I didn't know how I could get off the wheel because I was just running at like such a pace. And now I've almost been given this gift, and I feel like if I don't take it, I'd be really stupid. So I'm really spending a lot of time with myself in my mind, and really going, it's a scary move to step away as hard as you were going for a while. It's quite difficult to say, no, I can't, I'm not going to do that anymore, because I'm a very yes kind of person, and it's hard for me to say no. But I think my body and my brain need a break. And I think moving forward, I'm going to listen to it a lot more. And I'm really excited for the opportunities that come out of COVID. I think I think only good can come out of something that's been so disruptive. So, yeah.
It's a great positive perspective you have on it, on such a impactful event that's happening around the world at the moment.
Oh, I think everyone though is. Everyone I speak to is just like welcoming the change of pace, and although it's different and scary and it's all unknown, it's really exciting as well. Like, I remember when it first happened, and my husband and I were walking around, he goes, isn't this kind of a sci-fi movie? I'm really excited by the whole thing. And I'm like, strangely, I am too. And then it got boring, and we were doing it for too long, and I was like, okay, I'm ready for it to come back.
Yeah.
But I'm like on this level of, I'm okay with the new norm. And I think the world was so messed up, and I think it had to happen. I don't think anybody could have been running as fast and hard as we all were and still make the finish line, because you just got to shake it up. And COVID did that, and I think it's been really a great thing if you're willing to let go and just accept. I think it's a really positive thing outside of the awful, obviously, repercussions of deaths and things like that. That's terrible. But the other things have been okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen you're an absolute hustler. I've seen you work day to night because we're quite local to each other. Seen you work to their bones, and I've seen, and with results, you guys are one of the most awarded places out there, and it's amazing the quality and the work that you guys produce. And yeah, it's just to see now that such an event has come and has allowed you guys to just put on pause for a moment and think, okay, it's time to reassess. And yeah. I absolutely agree about what you said. It's, when is that moment where it's going to come again in time that just has to put a complete halt to your routine and go, hold on, guys, pause, and have a think about everything.
Absolutely. I'm super excited by it. Every day that goes by, it's like I get stronger and stronger in the thought process of slowing down. And I'm enjoying that kind of growth in a very different way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really keen to see what the next 12 months does for our business. And also for our clients, I think it's really nice to know that, like, when you engage us in the future, we're yours and we're yours only. I think to be able to, like, really settle into a project properly and give you 100%, you can't run 10 projects at the same time. So I think this is a really great opportunity to re-establish that relationship with a designer and a client and really give them 100% attention.
Yeah, sure. Just switching gears a little, for people at home or people fitting out shops or whatever it may be, what are some basic rules of thumbs that people can look at doing to spruce up their interiors without going to hours of detail, as probably could? You even down the road of your philosophy, for example, you were talking about you're big on mixing textures up, whether it's from expensive textures to cheaper textures.
Yeah.
For the untrained, can you share a little bit more about it to us? I'm actually really fascinated by that stuff, but I have no idea.
I think people forget that interiors are very personal, and just because it looks great in a magazine or in a TV show, that same design can't really apply to your interior. Those decisions have been based on a very project-specific space, and so I think if you steer away from trends and really hear what you like and the things that you love, you'll have a far more successful kind of outcome. But I think a lot of people put too much in there, and they think every corner needs to be filled and you need to line every wall with a piece of furniture. And to be honest, it couldn't be further from the truth. I think if you start paring back, and I always like to think of it as a piece of paper that you've rubbed charcoal all over. And we had this great class in university where it was literally a reduction, and you would paint backwards. So you would get an eraser and you would actually start chipping away at the charcoal piece of paper, and a picture would be revealed, but you were painting with the eraser, which for me is exactly how I like to think of an interior. And it is reduction. You might be having all of these things that just don't make sense anymore, and you've held on for dear life to these items that your mum gave you because she was throwing something out and you needed a vase at the time, but you never really liked it. It's about taking those things out and really reassessing the interior fresh and then adding back. And that's what I think a lot of people just don't ever do, so they never get it right from the get-go. So you need to look at it as a blank kind of canvas and then put things back rather than just adding and adding and adding. And you can definitely, you don't have to have $100 million to make your space feel home. It's about the way you curate little vignettes of special moments, and it's literally about reorganization of things that you already have, and it just doesn't look good in that corner, but it looks great over there. And I think people just go, oh, if that looks crap, and they're going to chuck it out, and then it's going to be on the side of the road and in a dumpster or in a landfill. And you just need to, like, really think about how you can use it in a different way. I've got a piece of furniture that just never stays in one spot. It goes and circles around my house in different areas all the time until I get it right. And I got to sit with it for a little while, and then it just doesn't feel right, and I move it. And then I think it's good. I think it's good now, but it took me like a year and a half to figure out. But yeah, I just think have fun too. Don't get too bogged down in the detail, and the worst thing is don't go to someone's house and love what they've done and try and recreate it. That is like the worst thing to do. It has to be yours, because you'll know in a heartbeat that it's not you when you walk through the door, when your best mate walks through the door and realizes it's their house instead. So be true, be honest.
I think everything you've just shared is the complete opposite of what I've been and thought about. It's okay. Canvas, add,
Yeah.
and then it's set and forget.
Yeah.
It's like, what? You can move furniture items around?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
And when you walk into somewhere, it's like, oh, I really like that. That's what I want to do at home. Okay. So
yeah.
you put out everything that I know. Everything that I wanted to do. So, all right. Do the complete opposite of whatever I'm thinking. Gotcha.
Exactly. I'll come over for you if you want
to. Oh,
to.
please. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And obviously with your work, you have certain views and philosophies and ideas with your craft. Has the learnings you've gained in your industry influenced the way you look at life?
It's really hard when you work, I guess, when you're a business owner. It's very hard to separate your life and work. So they become one, and I haven't been able to distinguish between the two lately. But I got to say, COVID has certainly given me that opportunity. And so I think I'm going to have to come back to you on that question because I don't know the answer to it right now. I think they're very different things, and I probably use the way I interact with people on a business level. I almost inject that in my personal relationships, which maybe is a good thing, but maybe not. But I'm not entirely sure. It's actually a really hard question because I can't differentiate between the two. I'll come back on that.
No problems. I was digging into, you've had so much press, obviously, in all the awards that you've won, and I was digging through all of them, and I came across a quote, and I was giggling because I remember saying to you, "Yes, I'd love you to design my place if I could ever afford." And then I came across a quote, and goes, "If someone doesn't want me to design the furniture for their interior, they might as well move on." So I think, all right.
No, I feel like that got skewed a little bit.
So I'm giving you the chance to elaborate on it.
Yeah, for me, I think it was reference to. I think interior designers get a really bad rep for being pillow fluffers, or they paint colors, they pick colors and rearrange a bed and all that kind of stuff. And yes, that is part of our job, but that is such a small part. And I think when you do have press, it's an opportunity to put out there your bigger picture of what your studio can offer. And I guess that's where that comes into play. But for me, it's also referencing the masters like Frank Wood, Mies van der Rohe, Eileen Gray, Corbusier, all of the incredible architects that I've grown up with reading in books. They did everything. They were holistic designers. They, designed the cutlery and, the beautiful robes that hung behind the door as you came out of your shower that was meticulously detailed. And every single bit of beauty in a project is project specific. It can't work with another piece because it has been designed specifically for that little moment, that space. And for me, that is true artistry. And I love the idea of having, not control, that's not a great word, a say in how those things all work together. And it does tell a much more successful story if you have that ability to touch every surface, every wall, every room, and every detail. The space becomes just an incredible piece of art. So it is really important for me to be able to design all the furniture, the fittings, the everything. Our furniture lists usually for a project aren't that big because we customize pretty much 95% of everything in them.
Wow.
And for me, I love that. I love that so much. So the next kind of step for YSG is making products available and really getting more into that market as well. Yeah.
Clearly your work speaks for itself and has gained so many awards. Why do you think you've achieved such success? And just coming off that conversation of you customizing at least 95% of the project, do you think that's part of the reason?
I honestly don't know. I don't know why we're successful, and I wouldn't even really say we're successful. It's really weird when you're doing it, you don't think that you're successful, and I'm actually really terrible at celebrating my wins. And everybody always says, "Oh my God, that was such a great project," and I just look at it as another beautiful project. I don't necessarily see it as a success, but I think what I try to do is be very true and honest to my client and really try to get them to push their idea of what their home should be. And like in one project we finished, the client had some friends over, and the friends were really surprised at the interior. They said, "Oh, it doesn't speak Mark at all." And I was like, whoa, this is Mark moving into his future, because he just had broken up with his wife. He had no belongings. We were recreating and restructuring his future. And a couple of years later, he emailed me and he's like, this space, I have grown into it like you said I would, and I can't actually believe you've designed it the way it would have, but I didn't even know that's what I wanted. And for me, that's like the biggest success. Like for me is a client coming back and saying, wow, you actually designed my personality, which is so hard to do, but I find that super satisfying. And it's not tastes, you're designing the personality and you're bringing that out into an interior, into a built physical form. That's amazing. And I think maybe that's why we might have a little bit of success, because they're also very individual to each client and we don't really repeat the same details. It is for them. It's the gift to them. Yeah.
It's definitely not a cookie cutter approach. And,
no.
Yeah, and I love, because I'm a big believer in you become your environment, and the idea that you've somehow tapped into a space where you've also recreated their future self, their future environment for them, and then they've grown into that.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. And
I love that idea. I wish I could do it for me. I can't do that for me.
That's why I gotta get you to do it for me.
I'm a really bad designer when it comes to me, actually. It's crap. I was like, where is YSG for YSG?
I just wanted to jump gears again back to the business topic what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
And I know I'm jumping around a lot.
No, that's okay.
With the business side of things, going through COVID, reassessing priorities, and where do you think how you will continue to pivot or innovate moving forward? I heard you just mention you were customizing these pieces that you might put onto the market.
Yeah. So when we built the website, it was really important for me to also be building in a future-proofing kind of scenario where we were selling editions of specific pieces. And so that is happening in the background, and hopefully later on in the year, working with some incredible furniture makers to realize some of these really beautiful one-off pieces, which will be available through our website. But also, performance-wise, I guess I'm trying to strike a balance between music and interiors. And for me, it might look like something more like a podcast that actually speaks to people I really appreciate within the industry, but more focused on their origins, where they come from, and how that has made their interiors look the way they do. And for me, background on where you've come and what you've experienced is the backbone to people's interiors, and I really want to explore that. And it will satisfy my love for being a little bit more out there in terms of performance, but in a much less kind of capacity than on stage with the bass guitar and a microphone. But yeah, I definitely want to explore those other parts of the business, which I think have been dormant for a while. Again, COVID's given me a great opportunity to, reassess and focus on things that I have wanted to do for a very long time.
Great time to give it a go as well. And I can't wait to
see
the podcast when it drops. Got to share it with me.
Yeah. I've got logos and at the moment being made up, and so I've got a list of people that I'm dying to interview, and so it should be really good.
Exciting times. Also, I came across another quote. It says, "Perfection in my book is about cohesive clashes and unpredictable conclusions. It's imperative that design outcomes supersede our clients' wildest expectations." And after hearing that quote and then hearing you speak just now, you also mentioned that you take from your professional life the way you communicate with clients to the way you communicate with people. And I've always sensed that something about you is like, how do you even begin learning and listening to your clients' needs?
I think if you're in our profession, it's something that's inherent and you don't actually really ask the questions. It's almost a very visual cue basis of absorbing information. So I remember being very young and always looking at people's shoes. I was pretty tiny, so I couldn't even look up at their faces. So I guess maybe that might have something to do with it. But I always remembered what shoes they wore. I was obsessed with them. And I can almost do the same thing, but in a different way now when I see somebody first up for a client meeting It's almost like I scan them. It's terrible. Scan is such a bad word, but I can very quickly visually like just absorb, okay, she's got this on, he's got this on. It's the way people carry themselves, it's the way they talk, it's the way they move their hands, it's all those kind of motor, like everyday motions that people wouldn't think mean anything. They mean everything. And that's what I take, and I start building a profile the minute I talk to them on the phone, and then I see them in person, and then I send them a questionnaire, and my questionnaire is a fairly strange questions. Like, they're not typical, oh, who's your favorite designer and all that sort of stuff. It is very quite personal, and sometimes has nothing to do with interiors, because that's not what I know what to do for interiors. That's not what I want to know. I want to know how that person feels in the morning and what they need out of their space to feel good. And that's really like quite a fascinating part of our job, is a very psychological connection with our clients and ability to, it's kind of like you have a crystal ball and you got to know one step ahead of them all the time.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of one of the best parts of the job is really defining them, because a lot of the time they don't even know, and it's really fun recreating themselves for them. Yeah, I really enjoy that part.
Wow, it sounds really fun, because you get so many different people. Obviously, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's a fun challenge, because you can dig deeper into their psyche and find out what they're about, what they're interested in, what they represent, what do they stand for, what do they stand against. And
yeah,
that's who.
And it can get very personal, and you can translate those mini ideas through an interior. And I think, again, that's how you make an interior really successful.
Just reaching towards the tail end of the interview, are there any quotes or ideologies you live your life by?
Everything happens for a reason. Absolutely everything. There's a reason I stopped playing music. There's a reason I went to Kuwait for high school. I'm working with a really good girlfriend of mine that I actually played music with in Kuwait. I'm doing her parents' house in Kuwait. 20 years later, I'm working with her in a totally different capacity, all because of this outfit I wore when we played music. And it was so weird. She called me up and she goes, "Yes, I want you to design my parents' house." And I was like, "I'm there." And she said, "Why?" And I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "You were wearing this shirt combination, the pattern combination." And I was like, "Babe, I got the picture." I sent her the picture of my outfit that day, because I actually really loved my outfit that day. I had really big lapels on, really 70s, and I put it with a very swirly jumper on top with no sleeves, so she could really appreciate the pattern combination. And I sent her the picture, and she's like, "How did you know that was the outfit that I was going to tell you?" And I said, "Because I just know that you love that kind of stuff." And this is what I mean. Like, you just never know. Like, I might end up working over there. I have got no clue, but I really truly believe that everything, even you don't think about it, that it's happening for a reason, and it'll only make sense maybe 10 years from now. It might not make sense right now, and you might want something completely different. And that's why when something really bad happens, I'm like, maybe that bad thing is happening because that good thing is needing to happen at that right time, and it's just not now. So just be patient and wait. And I really try and live by that. I actually want it tattooed on my arm, but then I thought that was pretty stupid.
No, it's an incredible thing to live by. It just gives you that sense of optimism as well, and that life for you as well, and that the popular Steve Jobs quote that goes around and around. And it's hard to connect the dots going forward, but you can always connect it going backwards.
Yeah, exactly. You said it way better than I just tried to.
I just copied Steve Jobs. Are there any new beliefs or behaviors that have had a positive impact in your life in the recent years or period?
I'm really trying to get into meditation a bit more and quieten my mind so I can actually be inspired. I keep going back to COVID, but Jesus, it gives you a lot that I wasn't really getting before, which was a little bit of quietness. And meditation is really good in that way. And that's probably something that I'm really trying to focus on. But I also I've danced since I was like 4, and I've just started getting back into that as well, which I've really enjoyed. And it's just, again, it's like music. It just releases all these terrible things that might have happened to you that day and makes you feel just so positive. And there's nothing like dancing and singing. Like, it's really such a relief. Yeah.
Is there any particular type of meditation that you do? Is there an app that you use? Or you?
I'm still trying to get my head around that. I find it really difficult to not. I don't love apps. More guided meditations, but with people who, like, maybe just one person, not like necessarily like an entire group. I went to Bali and did a two-week ashram recently, and I hit this moment where I felt high for 4 days afterwards, because it was such an incredible, I really did lose myself, and I've never done that before, and I actually felt the benefits of just 20 minutes of quietness, and it changed my next 4 days just astronomically. I want to get back there, and I just don't know how to do that without being in an ashram, but I need to figure it out because it's life-changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to know I need to get better at it, but I've also got to be like kind to myself and just accept that it's going to take a while, because it's not an easy thing to do. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. Yeah. I'm trying to practice that. Being grateful also is very good.
Yeah.
I used to have a book where I'd write everything that I was grateful for that day that happened. And even if I had a shit day, it would be the things just like I've got a bed, I've got a fridge full of food, and I've got a beautiful husband. And then there would be other days where the things that had happened to me that day were incredible. And acknowledging the great things that do happen is a great way to stay positive in really dark times. So that's something I like to do as well.
It's true. No matter how tough things get, there's always something to be grateful for, hey?
Yeah, but being alive, being able to walk, having 5 fingers and 10 fingers and 10 toes. Having 5, you're maybe not so good.
A question I wanted to ask earlier, actually, and that's a bit off pace. Being a creative, is there a process that you go through before you get into that zone of creativity? Or do you just go, no, it's time to just flick the switch on and let's go?
I just flick the switch on and let's go. It's weird. As a designer, you're always absorbing, you're looking at stuff, you're on TV or movies or Pinterest, and your own actual physical experiences going into a bar and a restaurant that you really admire. So you're constantly got this bank of material and historical references that you're actually subconsciously applying to projects. And definitely when you start a project, your mind is going like this, and it's trying to make sense of all the information you've been absorbing for the last 10 years, going, maybe it's time to use that. And so again, it's a sense of compiling all that information and reducing it into this really magnificent, juicy, really makes sense kind of information for that project. Yeah. And that's a really fun but also very terrifying time, because you don't always know you're going to get there. You do always get there, but there's always a really weird moment before you get there where I ain't going to get there. So it's funny. It's a bit terrifying, but it's also really, it's a super fun place to be.
Is talking about compiling things, is there a particular source or core part of where you draw your inspiration from for your work? Is it like, in particular, for example, landscapes, or is it?
For me, travel does a lot of it, but obviously travel's on the back burner for a while. I love getting inspired by movies and movie sets. There's moments of movies where, and it's generally from older kind of movies, where the protagonist might be in their living room, but that living room is like so incredibly different and detailed that I take snippets from things that I see on screen. I do love that. But travel does it. And really, I always look back to the masters of architecture and interiors who, for me, go back to that holistic idea of designing everything. And Eileen Gray, a beautiful furniture designer mainly, but also architect and interior designer, she carried a little notebook with her wherever she went, and also a tape measure to make sure that proportions, when she felt something was right, she would document why that felt right. She'd get her tape measure out and go, this is why it feels as good as it does, because it's this proportion. And proportion for me is like super important, and it does really help when you were talking about 4 pillars and why does it feel nice. Proportionately, like when you sit at that bar and you're across from the bartender, there is a distance that makes that feel right, and we got that. And there's so many moments like that in interiors that people take just for advantage. They just take it for being normal, and every place has those things, but it doesn't. It's been really considered and highly thought about, and so proportions for me is a really amazing part of why things are successful as well. I don't know if I totally answered your question.
Yeah, I think the proportion thing you brought up, it made absolute sense. Now that I've been to 4 Pillars Bar and sat down at the bar as well, and I can, like, there's so many layers and dimensions to it. Like, for example, when you're sitting at the bar, and then how wide and spaced the bar is to the bartender, and then from there it is spaced again to then the next layer of the other people that are sitting across from that bar. Not only that, I remember you can even see
into the bar,
and then another space where it's after the bar where they're sitting against the wall as well. And it's like you can see everyone, and everyone can see you, but in a way where it's not intrusive. You know how is that?
I'm so glad you said that. That's just spot on, and I'm so glad you've experienced that, because that's what we really wanted out of the space. This layered idea, but almost like it's voyeuristic, but without being like seedy. I really love it though. I've been so many times, and I don't generally do that because I always feel like it's a bit crass, like the designer going into the spaces they design like over and over. But I actually really love 4 Pillars. Like, I feel like it's like my home, and I really enjoy going back there. But I think those guys are like, really? You're coming back again? And I'm like, I'm just bringing my mom. I'm just bringing my sister. Like, my best friend hasn't seen it yet. So, yeah.
Oh, you must feel so proud of that space. I've been recommending it to all my customers and friends as well.
Aww.
You guys got to go there. You got to check it out. You got to experience of what it is. Absolutely.
Aww. Anything that supports hospitality right now, right?
Yeah. Final 2 questions. If you could only send one single line of SMS text to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be?
I have been toying with this question all night. Like, I literally lay in bed and I was like, what the hell am I going to say? And every time I thought of something, it was just so cheesy, because I think I want to be that person that has regrets and wants to talk to their former self and go, hey babe, it's okay, like, you could have done this, just be kind to yourself. I'm not that kind of person. I really don't regret much. And I think if anything, I might say, don't not do something out of fear. Like, maybe. But I've already done that. I get scared crazy about certain things, and I'm like, that means I should 100% do it. So I can't really say that that's what I would tell my old self, because I always did them. But maybe I would just tell someone else who wasn't me from 5 years ago to do that. But I'm pretty happy with my decisions. I'm going to own them. And I feel pretty good about that.
Great. That's great. Finally, as we tie up, how could people reach out or learn more about you?
You can head to my website at ysg.studio. Also, our Instagram handle is ysg.studio. If you want to hear some conversations music, you can head to Triple J Unearthed and type in the conversations. Or, in a very old former life, I did some TV on Foxtel, and you can see me for 10 episodes on Deadline Design with Foxtel. So there's a multiple layered approach to learn more about YSG. I hope you enjoy every single one of them.
This has been such a fascinating, wide range and learning conversation with you guys. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks.
Sharing everything with us. I will catch you around, my friend.
Yeah, I'll see you. I'm going to come over and get a coffee, so I'll see you soon.
All right, peace out.
Bye, Kev.
Thanks
See
for
ya.
tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled KEVINLY. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.